difference from a racing game and a creative building game, we're going to now be discussing a more grounded topic in a more grounded game. Um, we've discussed a very broad range of things. We've discussed memory, reaction time, quick thinking, creativity, and a world with no restrictions that you can kind of put yourself in and have an escape. But we're going to discuss the next level of that creative escape while also remaining in a setting with more boundaries. It's important again to understand that creativity is different for different situations. Minecraft is probably one of the most creative games ever made. However, there are other games that encourage creativity, and in this sense, creativity is involved in how you choose to live your life. So we're going to discuss role playing in video games and emotional involvement. Now, those are really weird topics, especially role playing. A lot of people look at role playing and they think of, I don't know, weird, more outcast personality role play type stuff. I think it's important to really define what role playing is. I discussed that Minecraft was a role playing game. And role playing, to sum it up, is putting yourself in quite exactly a different role and playing a different role. We could say that Formula One is a role playing game, and for some it is. However, it's not usually categorized underneath that. It's more a racing game. This game would be considered a role playing game. It is Red Dead Redemption 2. It is a game about being a cowboy in the Westward expansion. So I'm going to showcase emotional involvement and role playing. So in this game, it has a very deep story that admittedly has made me cry before. And it's important to emphasize that because we don't often think of video games of carrying a lot of emotional involvement. A lot of people do like video games. A lot of people laugh when they play video games, but video games themselves, when paired with a good story, can contain lots of elements that people can relate to and understand. This is a game where its story is about like brotherhood and simple, yes, it's a Western, so it involves running from the law, but it really begs the question, what do we prioritize in life? How do you want to live the last moments of your life when everything you've done you view as a regret? Right? And when you're put in that emotional situation, you become involved. You become involved with the game. You start to think, and it puts you in a more creative situation where you're like, how would I handle this? How would I go about this when the main character is struggling? So what you can see already is we've walked through a very populated world, a highly populated world, with an interactive environment, people all around town doing their own things, performing their own duties, and what this can do is put someone in a more defined role. Role playing, when it comes to video games, pairs with this emotional involvement in a way that most other games don't. Yes, again, Formula One could be considered a role playing game if I decide to hop on with my friends and simulate a real race where I have a friend pretending to be my crew chief. That could be considered a role playing game. But in this sense, we are put in the shoes of an outcast, of a poor Westerner in a time period where things were really difficult for settlers moving westward. And with all of these things that we're not used to, with a life that we all tend to live, usually where we have all of these eases of life. We have fridges, lights, internet, technology to really help us live. This is, again, a world of hard times, so it puts you in a role that you couldn't really experience nowadays without sacrificing so many commodities. And again, it makes you think, it makes you become emotionally involved. How would I go about this? And it allows you, with the world of civilians and an interactive environment, it allows you to interact as well. You can greet people, they will greet you back. You can be rude to people, however, I won't simulate that. And more similarly, with an interactive environment, You can suffer consequences of your behavior. As you can see, I was a perpetrator to a very criminalized event, and now I'm being punished for it. And it's as simple as that. It's a role playing game that involves situations that you're put in where you often would never be put in. I would never really hit a horse and then be wanted by the police, but I am allowing myself to be involved in that situation emotionally, and I am forced to face the consequences in a really highly developed, deep world with wonderful storytelling. And so, as I discussed with Minecraft, games are a great escape from the real world, and this is a prime example of that. We're given the ability to discover, learn, roam, and with a map with different biomes and a wonderful community, as seen right here, it can allow people to escape from a real world and just go and emotionally invest themselves with a world that, although it doesn't exist, can help them develop social strategies and different ways to think about things, which can help problem solving in the real world and with social interactions, if that makes any sense. So, to sum it all up again, social interaction, although it's not real, it can influence problem solving and how emotionally developed we are to a title. And again, yes, I say social interaction, and although it really is antisocial because none of this truly exists in the real world, you have these events, you have consequences for harming someone, harming an animal, stealing, that you then have to think about. In a game like this, where the story revolves around how morally driven you are as a person, it can really affect someone mentally. Despite the fact it's just a game, the emotions are still real, and that's an important thing to understand.